covering the whole gamut, George. It's military encounters of UFOs galore. Nearly 200 are in this next book that I've delineated, as well as research issues, the whole evolution of UFO research, which turned out to be a fascinating story. Government policies, the attempts to end disclosure, the attempts to end UFO secrecy during that period, and possible abortive disclosure efforts that I believe took place in the 1980s and possibly in 1990. So
well, you got me hooked. You got me hooked. We'll come back and talk about the book because I want to. I'm really curious about whether you knew what you're getting into when you started, but we'll come back to that later. I want to continue with this, the possibility of disclosure. You were just suggesting that it would be very difficult for Obama or any other president to come forward and say, hey, yeah, we've been lying to you all this time.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think that the problems are so immense, they are so deep and profound that even a new person like Obama, I mean, he's better positioned than anybody to come clean on this because he's the new guy in the political scene, right? So he wouldn't personally be accused of hiding the truth on this matter for years and years and years. So he's in a position where he can do it. The problem is that he's now the representative of an immense power structure that has had control over this secret. And so it's all the people who've been involved in the secrecy who's going to be on the line for this. As I mentioned, the structure of secrecy, I think, has been so deep, so extra-constitutional, you can only describe it as a vastly illegal structure. There are issues dealing with what are these secret programs about. For example, do we have a secret space program? It's entirely possible, and I think likely that we do. Are we trying to build flying saucers secretly? Well, I think the answer is yes. And so these would have to come out. Then it gets even more interesting. You're going to have to deal with who these other beings are. I mean, we can't just dance around this forever. So if Obama says, yes, the UFO phenomenon is real and there are aliens, it's not really going to work for any president to say, well, I don't know who these other beings are. It's not going to be believable. People are going to want to know who are they, and the evidence points to the fact that these other beings have a very strong interest in us. They have been doing things within our society that many people may not be very happy about, including things like abductions. And then there are going to be the inevitable challenges once all of this comes out to our structure of power. What would disclosure do to financial markets? What would they do to our political system? What would they cause? Would there be legal actions being taken as a result of disclosure? So all of these things are going to have to be covered very, very carefully so that the people who have the secret are going to feel comfortable giving up that secret to the world.
Well, I'll ask you about who the keepers of the secret are in a couple of minutes. I want to first ask you, though, do you think Obama has been briefed already? I mean, he's had some briefings. Do you think somebody came and told him the news?
Well, I think that he probably will be briefed. And whether it's now, he's been elected only for about a couple of weeks now. How long has it been? About a week, 2 weeks? God, I'm losing track of everything. 2 weeks. I think he could have been briefed by now, yes. When you look historically at, we know a little bit about other briefings of presidential elects regarding key matters of national security, and typically they occur within the first month of their election, of course. In the case of President-elect Jimmy Carter, over 30 years ago, we're pretty sure he was briefed on the matter of UFOs by then CIA Director George Herbert Walker Bush. And I believe that occurred very early after Jimmy Carter was elected president. That's at least the story as it came down to us from Daniel Sheehan, who had some connection with the Carter administration back at that time. So I think it's quite possible that Barack Obama could have been briefed on the matter of UFOs by this time. It's a little early. I think that he will be briefed. Whether it's complete or not is another question. I had an interview once with a gentleman, a very, very high-level person, who knows a number of former directors of the CIA, and I was able to get an interview with this person, and one of the first things that I asked him was, how much do you believe presidents know about UFOs? It's one of the great questions anyone would ask, right? Such a person. And his answer was interesting to me. He gave me the feeling that they're not all equal in how much they have known. It was a strongly held opinion, almost certainty. He said that Jimmy Carter, George Bush Sr., and Ronald Reagan. So Carter, Reagan, and George Bush Sr., he believes all were briefed fairly thoroughly on this matter. It was not his opinion that Bill Clinton or George W. Bush had been briefed fully.
It's like the keepers of the secret make up their own judgment about who needs to know and who can be trusted. That
is the impression he gave me. And one thing he said was, look, these presidents, they come and they go. They're not all psychologically at the same level. They're not all mentally stable, he said. He said this. I thought, wow. And they don't all have the equal level of confidence of that group. And so whether they get fully briefed or not, and he said others don't always have, really, they don't care. But the impression that I got was that President Bill Clinton may not have been fully briefed and that President George W. Bush may not have been fully briefed.
And Clinton wanted to know.
Yes, he did. He did. And there are certain apocryphal stories that have floated around regarding Bill Clinton's interests. First of all, we know that in the autobiography of his aide, Webster Hubbell, who was number 2 at the Department of Justice for a little while, that Bill Clinton asked him right off the bat. He said, there are 2 things I want you to find out for me. One is, I forget what was the order. One is who killed JFK, and 2 is, are UFOs real? And Hubbell did, I think, a half-hearted attempt, it seems like in his biography, to find out about UFOs, didn't get anything. But we have other signs of interest by Bill Clinton. He spoke about UFOs a number of times, indicating that he would want to know. And there's a story that got out, though, about him being angry within the White House, saying something to the effect that I know this is real, I know this is going on, and they won't tell me a damn thing. Whether that's true or not, I couldn't tell you. It's a story that's floated around for quite some time.
And, of course, we know that we've heard often about Jimmy Carter's interest in the subject.
Right.
He actually gave some sort of an assignment to NASA. Hey, we need you guys to find out some of this stuff or study it, right?
He did. This is, in fact, being covered in my next book. I've felt that I dealt with this as thoroughly as I possibly could. Jimmy Carter did have a genuine interest in doing something about this, certainly as a candidate. Jimmy Carter was very open about the fact that he had seen a UFO, and then, of course, the whole thing got covered by the National Enquirer, and I think he just decided, well, I'll make the best of the situation once this has come out, and said, if I get elected, I will do everything I can to open up the books on this and to see about doing a government study of the problem. He did try to hand it off to NASA. NASA ran fast and far from this. By the end of his first year in the White House, that whole issue was dead. The story of his attempt to give this to NASA is a very interesting one. It looks like NASA was right behind them with CIA saying, no, you're not going to do this. This is not going to happen. At the same time, letters poured into the Carter White House, thousands and thousands of letters from citizens. It was a fascinating time. And, in fact, the Jimmy Carter presidency, even if he didn't intend this to happen, I believe was a key part of key cause of many leaks that occurred from the military world to private researchers who started talking about something that had never been discussed before, and that is crash retrievals of UFOs and the storage of alien bodies.
I remember seeing in a Newsweek, and they have that little Periscope section back in the day, and it was during the Carter administration, there was like a 2-line blurb that said, we're hearing that disturbing revelations about UFOs are about to pop.
Yes, that was U.S. News and World Report, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been Newsweek. Yes, exactly. There was a column that had Washington Whispers, and that came out. It was his chief of staff, Jody Powell, I believe, was talking about this. There were a couple of possible initiatives that were going on in the Carter White House at this time. You got the NASA thing that formulated during the summer of 1977. And then there were a couple of others, and it looked like they all just died
Hey, hold on, Richard. The Ozark Mountain Daredevils are telling